podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
There's no question about that.
Well, that was just fine. Easy. Walk in the park. No bother. Easy win as predicted.
It's always hard against Norwich. I said last week. Always. No, actually, you said last week that there'll be loads of changes. It'll be completely disjointed, and it won't be an easy win, which was the right call.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know. You saw the starting 11. Ole Solskjaer. Sorry to the people that think he's the best manager we've ever had. I don't know. There's no actual people that think he's the best manager we've ever had, but people that only want to give him credit for his positives and don't want to acknowledge some of the more complex issues at play here. He wound me the heck up in pre-match. He was being interviewed, and the person that was interviewing him said, "You made 8 changes, I think it was, from the previous." And goes, "Oh, well, of course, it's only one change from the previous FA Cup round." And he looked so smug while he said it, like, I know they're going to ask me about changes, and this is what I'm going to say. It's like the previous FA Cup round was against a second-string Championship 11.
Oh, but they might have Wayne Rooney in the second-string Championship 11.
Yeah, that's true.
And he was 4 months ago or something.
Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed the second 2/3 of this game. Or no, like the last
half 2
of,
minutes. Yeah, I really enjoyed the last 2 minutes. It was good.
The end of the like normal time and extra time. United played some fantastic football, and among all that.
Sure, yeah. So I'm just trying to remind myself what happened here. So after Cantwell scored, I thought United took the game to Norwich pretty forcibly after that, and definitely in extra time, obviously. But the one positive I'd take out of that game, which was pretty disjointed, really poor quality in the first half, was the sort of ferociousness with which they went for it and tried to win the game, especially Norwich. Down a man, which I guess we shouldn't like. Of course, Norwich at the bottom of the Premier League. United are 14 matches unbeaten. You'd expect a United side in these circumstances with an extra man to go after it, but we haven't always seen that. And in fact, these are the kind of games in which United struggled. And then we've got 8 changes, and a lot of those changes are players who haven't had much football. Igalo, not much football. Mata, no football. Lingard, no football. Who else came in? Dalot, no football for months on end. So it's effectively
by one game,
yeah. Effectively, their either first or second game of pre-season. So we should reserve judgment about the quality of the performance on that basis alone, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Although there's 1 or 2 of them whose performances was exactly what you'd expect for everything they've been doing in the last 2 years at the club. So, maybe not all of them get the full reserve judgment treatment. I mean, in the end, we're through, which is, of course, what matters in cup football, as the manager called it. And actually, the thing you can say about Solskjaer's United is they do have much more kind of going for them when things get tough than they've had in recent years. But I wonder how much of that is just the 6 changes that were made in the game were all. I mean, can't have happened very much. Well, it's never happened, does it, outside of friendlies, because there were all 6 changes.
Yeah,
all an upgrade on who was on the pitch. And we were 1-0 up when he brought on Rashford, Greenwood, and someone else, maybe Matic. I think Matic came
Williams was earlier than Matic.
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And at that point, I thought, well, we're gonna boss this now because we've bought on some of the goodies. But actually, it was a real struggle. And let's go back a bit earlier, because for me, the key change in the game after Cantwell's goal was when Pogba came on. That was the thing that turned the game on its head. And
he created 4 chances in this game?
Five
chances in this game.
Oh, no.
Added to the 4 from last week or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think it was. I think Bruno created 5 and Pogba created 4, and that's But so the goal, the first goal, Luke Shaw, who I think had a very frustrating game overall. I mean, we had a real go at him for his performance a couple of games ago was it the game against Spurs?
Yeah, he just kept giving away the ball. Yeah,
there was a lot of that in this game, but he was absolutely instrumental in the goal. I mean, United had been very disjointed and not looked particularly together or impressive, but broke down the left wing, crossed it in. Mata with a really nice touch, and a player who didn't do much for the rest of the game. There was a brilliant tweet that I saw. Can't remember who it was by.
Was it a nice touch or he was trying to shoot?
Oh, well, I thought he was trying to.
It was a pass.
I thought he was trying to loop it over the defender, but maybe they're being wildly generous, and he was just having a little shuffle at it. I saw someone tweet, and I haven't got the details of it, so I can't shout out the person that it was, but the tweet said Mata and Lingard, like the rest of us, waiting for Bruno to do something.
Yes.
And then that brilliant finish from Ighalo.
Lovely finish, and that's a sort of fox in the box goal is the type of goal he seems to get, apart from the worldie that he scored against LASK a few weeks back. So I think that's 4 goals in games he started now for United. So it's a very good return for someone who's now first change, I guess, in the centre forward role. For £4 million plus whatever it's costing us to loan him till January, maybe the same again. Not a bad return for this season at all. So that's good. I mean, a couple of players you mentioned there in the commentary, Lingard, who had a really frustrating game running up blind alleys, did some good stuff. We had an exchange on WhatsApp earlier about his Who Scored rating, which at 7.6 would suggest he had a very good game, and he's got that rating because he had 3 successful take-ons and 4 shots, 3 of which were blocked. Basically, that's why he's got that rating. I think most of the time he just... Yeah, and some tackles, but most of the time he was completely ineffective as an attacking player, and he's effectively the wide left in the 4-2-3-1. Supposed to be the replacement for Rashford, so therefore cutting in, creating chances, scoring goals, just didn't do that at all. And look, caveat of course is that he's not had football for months and didn't have much football before the break either, I guess. And then Mata on the other side, he also mentioned the touch for Ighalo. We can be generous and say he was trying to do it, which would be a lovely piece of skill, but he was completely ineffective. I mean, just not in the game at all. And one of the things you really notice without Martial and Rashford and I guess Dan James or Pogba in the side is just how much United's passing went side to side to side to side, and was just, for all the possession that United did have, not enough really good chances. I mean, at this stage of the pod, we normally be talking about XG, but the FA Cup has slipped down in the pecking order so much that even the stats guys don't record it for these games.
Because the stats guys are all American, aren't they? That's why they don't believe in it.
World's oldest football tournament. The disrespect.
The crazy thing about this is Bruno was the only one looking. I mean, this is back to how frustrating it was to watch United. I mean, we talked about this during the spell of unbeaten games and how there's only a handful of good performances in. But when it's Bruno on his own without Martial or Rashford or Greenwood or Pogba, he's really got to do absolutely everything. And I saw some quite serious criticism of his performance, which I thought was wild, because I think he actually... He literally created a lot of chances and was really the only one trying to push the envelope. And he got better once Pogba came on, basically.
Sure, not everything came off for him in this game. And I think that's where the criticism comes from. 73% pass completion, which actually isn't. I mean, it's pretty wasteful, but it's not that far out of Bruno's normal performance. He is a guy who will try something to gain something, high risk, high reward type player. We'll see. I mean, he's not played for us in a really big game yet. One of the games where losing possession really does hurt you, and we'll see whether it does then. But I mean, that's why there's criticism, because he did create chances. He does create chances. He gave the ball away a lot in a frustrating performance overall from the team, and he's the kind of leader of this team now already. And that's why there's some criticism. I don't think it was his best performance for United by any stretch. I'm not sure he needed to play at some points. I mean, he looked a little bit tired. He's played 3 games in a week now after a long time out. In fact, he played the whole 120 minutes, didn't he? He didn't come off. So
no.
Yeah, which will be interesting for the game against Brighton on Tuesday.
I mean, there's just a couple of things that I want to challenge about this. One is calling it pretty wasteful, which I think is quite it's an understandable word to describe it, but really it's like, what is possession of the football for? It's to create chances, right? That's what we're trying to do. That's the whole point of it. So you're literally turning over possession a quarter of the time you've got the ball, but the times when you don't are the times of goal results. This is the thing that he's meant to be trying high risk stuff that doesn't come off, because there's no way, nobody, even like Messi, isn't only trying things that come off. And we've been
but it's not the best comparison, really.
I'm not.
But anyway, look. I know you want to complete your point, but the actual piece I was going to push back on is not about the comparison with Messi. I think the very best creative players don't turn it over this much, and it's not binary, a choice between, well, if you try high risk stuff, you're going to turn it over a quarter of the time. So, and look, I think it's a completely fair criticism of him. In a game like this, it doesn't matter so much. In a Champions League quarter-final game where we're playing whoever and they break on us and score a goal after we've not been able to break them down, it's going to be a really big deal. But we'll see. We're a long way away from that.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any creative players playing in teams that are so far from the finished product that are really creating stuff, like being very kind of like genuinely creating out of nothing, pulling something out of the hat, the kind of the unseen through ball that only one player on the pitch would have played, that aren't giving the ball away a lot. Like I really, who are they? I mean, I guess you could say like City's creative players don't give the ball away that much, but they're playing in a team that is utterly drilled in the art of kind of position and, positional play, right? And so there's always like options and it's automatisms and all that kind of stuff. They're not genuine playmakers in the same way. They're more like they're kind of cogs in a well-oiled machine. Excellent cogs, but in an excellent machine. So I don't know. It's to me it seems like and even in the big games you kind of think, well, who don't we want don't we? I mean, I guess what you would say back to it is that it's not binary, and you can have a player that could create at that level and give the ball away less. But I'd like to see him. We certainly haven't, and we've got Pogba, who's one of the most creative players in the game. Most able to create out of nothing, who, by the way, like his ball for the build up to the goal is just absolute genius. And he gives the ball away a kind of similar amount of the time, right?
No, about 10 percentage points less. Look, I mean, I'm not trying to turn this into some big criticism of Bruno Fernandes, but I can understand in a largely poor performance from United why that might attract criticism. I mean, he's at the same levels as he normally produces, and we had this discussion last year, and I think it will continue to be so, and will be even more when United play in the bigger games. Now, of course, what you're saying is he's going to be the player who provides the ball that wins United those games, and he might be. But I think the really, really elite are going to provide those passes and not give away the ball a quarter of the time as well. And it's just going to continue to be a question about him. He's the reason, apparently, the reason United briefed basically that they didn't sign him last summer. The question mark about his passing, which was an interesting leak from United as the reason they weren't spending the money when they got desperate enough and realised that Pogba was out for months and they could miss out on the millions of the Champions League. They finally spent the money.
But it also turns out that he was a completely transformative signing there's no signing that has made this impact on United since Robin van Persie. That's the last time you had a signing that's made this much difference on his own to United's general feel and tone. So yeah, anyway, so he can give the ball away 25% of the time if he wants. He's all right with me.
Yes, I hear you. We'll come back to this when United make a quarter-final of the Champions League, which may be a few years off yet. We'll see where the results go this season. So anyway, United scored after a really poor first half. I mean, just really awful. There were 2 shots on target in that first half, one from each of the teams. And in fact, at times I thought Norwich were the better side in that first half. At least they looked the more cohesive. And United just didn't at all. And I guess it was because of the many, many changes. But came out off the break, got the goal, and you'd think they'd push on from there, wouldn't you? But it just didn't happen at all.
No.
And in fact, Norwich were able to keep in the game. And then Cantwell's goal didn't exactly come after a period of Norwich pressure. But it's not like they didn't deserve something out of it to that point.
Yeah, and it was a hell of a goal as well. Really, just an excellent hit. And kind of, I mean, I did hear some criticism of Romero.
Oh, I was going to say, if this was Dave, you'd be on your agenda, #agenda, sorry, and you'd be saying, how could he be beaten by that one? I think he's slow to get down, Romero.
Right.
Mourinho said something interesting in midweek in which he said the players who are unable to come back really sharp after this are the players it's really affecting, strikers and goalkeepers, he said. So I don't know why a goalkeeper needs games to warm up particularly, but apparently so.
Not my striker. My striker scored a hat-trick. Thank you very much, Jose. The man that you thought was a left back. Idiot.
Yeah, no, I thought Romero was a bit slow to that. I mean, I don't know whether Dave would have saved it, but I'd like to think he would have. He might have let a couple of other back passes through his legs or something like that, but yeah.
So they had some big chances, Norwich. There was one that Maguire had to dig out a block, and then there was one in the second half as well. But United got bang on top after. So we had the 5 subs in the first half, and it was in normal time that they got a player sent off, wasn't it? It was the back end of normal time.
Yeah, back end of normal time. Last minute, in fact, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, just no doubt whatsoever. It looked tiny bit soft when you saw it in real time, and then you see it on the replay. And it's like, no, this is a sending off all day, because that is absolutely a foul and absolutely a denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity, isn't it?
Yes, and not a genuine attempt to play the ball, which is, where the triple punishment has been removed. Yeah. So yes, rugby tackled him.
Yeah, absolutely. And just fine movement from Ighalo, and I think it was either Fernandes or Pogba that put the ball into Ighalo. Fine ball into him as well. And there was just a lot of that. There was just a lot of. After that, there's a lot of very nice United play that doesn't quite come off because there's a foot in the way or something. There's obviously the Maguire header, which Krul pulled out a complete wonder save. There was a really good long shot from Bruno, with which after some not so good long shots from Bruno, a really good one. Which
quite a few wayward long shots from Bruno.
Absolutely,
36 attempts from United in this game, 8 on target, which tells you something about the sort of wastefulness of our attempts at shooting, let alone using the ball.
Marcus Rashford is really struggling generally, I think. Struggling clearly. I mean, he's coming back from a really difficult injury, isn't he? And coming back in less than ideal conditions. He's obviously done some really good stuff, but you can see he's just not anywhere near his best.
Not as sharp as he was before the break, for sure. Well, before his break.
Yeah. His back break. Martial looked very sharp and buzzy after he came on as the 6th man sub in extra time. Feels like if you've got 5 subs in normal time, going, oh yeah, we've got to have an extra sub now because it's extra time. Feels like, wow, okay, that's a lot. I do wonder
actually. I mean, it's a chat I was having with a few people on Twitter this week about the impact of having 5 subs, because I think you can think about it differently as a coach about how to set your team up and exactly what you're going to do with your subs. And typically we only see this kind of thing in international football where they have a team they want to try, and then they're going to bring a whole load of players on because they want to see them in the wild rather than in training for a few minutes. And there's this sort of assumption that you start with your best 11 and then go from there. But I don't think that has to be the assumption. When you've got 5 subs, your best 11 might be something different, actually, because you're going to manage the game up to 60 minutes, and that might be a different selection from what you want to finish the game with, because you might, for example, and just an example, use extreme pace in the last 30 to really hurt your opponents or something like that. And I do think there have been a few examples of coaches like trying something different in the last 30. 6 is a hell of a lot. It's more than half the team. Yeah, 5 I'm okay with. 6 I'm drawing a line at. And the other thing I just wanted to say, I do wonder whether this will affect football long term. And I know this is just for this short period of time. Everyone's coming back. They wanted to manage injuries. It was something the player unions wanted. But I wonder whether there'll be pressure anyway to introduce more subs or larger benches, or whether some of this will stick anyway.
Feels like such a massive advantage to the bigger clubs.
Oh, it is. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. So that's why people will do it, because I mean, but it does seem that like we were massively advantaged by that. I mean, I did find it frustrating that we went for the make loads of changes and play rubbish and then try and rescue the game, rather than play your best team, 3-goal margin, and then try and hold on to the game. But I guess But
the first one, the second one, that play your best team, get a big advantage, and then is an assumption.
Exactly, that's what I was just going to say. Yeah. There's more risk, isn't there? Because the risk of doing it the way where you play the disjointed rubbish team is that you have to bring on the big boys. The risk of playing the big boys from the beginning is that they don't do the business, and then you've got to keep them on the pitch and exhaust them ahead of like very crucial league games. Although then there's a whole other conversation to say, oh God, I can't believe we're prioritising the top 4 over winning a trophy. But obviously we have to, because it's the real politic of football. But it's so miserable, isn't it?
Anyway, extra time comes after the sending off, and I did kind of enjoy extra time. I mean, it's one of those weird ones where the commentator says this is like attack versus defence. This is a training ground regime sort of thing. In fact, he probably literally said that. But it was kind of fun, just watching United pummel someone. And I know all the caveats. This is not Fergie side chasing the game or whatever. It was against Norwich, who were tired and only had 10 men, but still fun.
Yeah. And the level of quality on display, particularly, I think, from Pogba and Martial, was just... I mean, it was outstanding. Some of the decision-making in the final third, working these tiny spaces. And there's one where Martial cut it back from the byline into Rashford. It was just inspired. He literally passed... It was a brilliant movement from Rashford. And Martial passed it into the only bit of space in the whole box. And then, at the goal, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but you just watch that goal, and it's one of those things where, like, often with a goal, you'll see the best thing about the goal when you watch replays or a different angle or something like that. But this, it was immediately apparent in real time. Pogba's waiting for something to be on. Ighalo spots that he's waiting, so he just gambles on a run into space. And that enables the whole kind of Rube Goldberg machine of it all to start kind of turning. And he pulls a defender with him, which opens up a little bit of room in the middle. And okay, so obviously there's an element of fortune with the way the ball bounces, but there's no fortune about the pass or the run or Maguire's gamble to be in the right place kind of thing.
Well, Maguire basically went up front for the last 10 minutes of that. I mean, he was very keen to get the goal, I think. I mean, he came close to the header, didn't he, earlier in the game? But yes, United gambled, United moved the players around, Pogba made the pass, helped create the space, and in the end, pinging around in the box for sure, but Maguire was there with a good finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And a really good win. Not a well-achieved win, but really good that we won and keep the train rolling. And it does feel, and this is where I think, it's a combination of clearly there's a better collection of players than there's been for a long time. And, whilst, the concerns about Fernandes are reasonable, he's also clearly absolutely brilliant football. And him and Pogba being on the same pitch at the same time is fantastic.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, the weaker side starting this game and struggling sort of reminds you of you don't have to scratch very far to reveal the horrors below the surface, do you? And because we've had this for a number of years. Story in the paper today suggesting, and just usual pinch of salt and all of that Ollie would have to sacrifice at least 4 players in order to get Sancho in.
Oh no! Whatever will we do without those 4 players?
I know, exactly my reaction. I was like, awesome. Is anyone prepared to... Dortmund want to have Alexi? I mean...
Yeah, just a straight swap. Sancho for what? Smalling, Alexis, Jesse, and I'll be sad to see him go, but Juan Mata would love living in Italy and art galleries and all that kind of stuff.
Dortmund's in Germany.
Oh,
right?
Sorry, yes. I don't know why I said Italy. I was
yeah.
thinking of Inter all of a sudden when I said Alexis. Wow. I suddenly got Inter in my head. That's where I went. There must be art galleries in Germany too, right?
Oh, no. No, actually, I've never been to Dortmund.
Right.
I've been to much of Germany, but not to Dortmund, and haven't done the pilgrimage to the Yellow Wall yet. Like all good football hipsters are supposed to do.
I've never been to Germany. It was frowned upon in my family as a child, even though that's where all our family are. So I would love to, though. I'd love to. I've got friends that live in Berlin. Might go and visit.
Berlin's great.
Very nice.
Yeah. Berlin's great. More edgy than, say, Munich, which is where all the money is. Munich's very pretty, and it's great in late September for Oktoberfest. Never ever worked out why it was called that and held then, but
it's like when FIFA 20 comes out in September 19.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all. The overall performance, that the kind of the quality of players available, I was making that point, but I wanted to say that Solskjaer, I mean, the kind of like local mics picked up a really horrendous moment from Solskjaer where he came kind of like, I was going to say charging down, but genuinely, as he was running down the stairs, the camera was on him. And this is maybe a bit harsh, but I'm just going to be honest about what was going on in my head at this point. And it looked to me like he felt like he was meant to come down to the touchline because United were playing badly. So he comes balling down the stairs, gets to the edge of the technical area and shouts, "Can we start looking like a team again?" Shouts is a strong word. Somewhat meekly bleats, "Can we start looking like a team again?" And
this is your Ollie gender, this is.
No, but because I was about to heap a bunch of praise on him, because I do think he deserves some praise. Like, he really does deserve some praise. It's not an accident that we're playing a particular style. He has picked some good teams and made some great subs in these last few games. So they've got no complaints. And every time there's a kind of sub that you're crying out for, or a change to a starting lineup that you're crying out for, he's pretty much done it every time. But there's big holes in what he can do. And I was just thinking, this was when United were playing at their worst, and they did need to start looking like they were playing as a team again. But if you're a footballer, what are you meant to do with that? Like, what use is it? Oh, try and be good at football now.
Yeah. There weren't any Amazon cameras there for the documentary, no. No, they've been good. We'll see behind the scenes of Ollie's United when it all falls apart. Yeah. I mean, look, there's the wider question about whether he's going to build the team that we all want him to build. A lot of that would depend on him going to a place that none of us know, even Ollie, and definitely not the management, whether he can actually get there or not, because he's never done it. And this is the strange thing about a manager being appointed to a top club with Ollie's record. I mean, he hasn't got the CV for it and did a 14-game trial and was given the CEO job, not the intern job. It's just we just don't know. And then there's the sort of suspicion that I think a lot of what you're saying kind of, speaks to, which is I think a lot of us fans have this suspicion that probably he's not that good, or he's not the man who's going to take United there. And because he's made so many mistakes and he's learning along the way.
Yeah, and I would love it if he could develop something, big. That would be absolutely amazing. It'd be an amazing story. But I do find him sort of singularly unimpressive. And that is, as it seems like a very harsh thing to say about someone, but I just mean every time I hear him speak, I very rarely heard him and thought, yep, that's something you could buy into. And the thing that strikes me is, how is it possible that he's so different behind the scenes that he's somehow impressive to all these very high level of player that we've got in the side? And it just seems far-fetched to me that they could be thinking, yeah, this is the man that we're going to bleed for, which, okay, maybe they don't need that because clearly they've got a lot of motivation among themselves, and clearly now there are some leaders on the pitch, which is a huge thing between Maguire and Fernandes, and we know that Rashford has leadership capabilities because he literally ran the country for a day, and there's leaders on the pitch, so maybe it's less of an issue. And I don't think he's making horrendous mistakes with tactics and selection, and certainly the players we're being linked to are the kind of players you'd hope we'd be linked to. So, there's plenty going right too. I just think it's a paradoxical position, isn't it? Neither one extreme nor the other represents where we're at with him.
Great. So United beat Norwich in the FA Cup, which tells us loads about the future of the club.
United.
Loads.
Oh God, I love so much them being back. It's ridiculous. Tuesday.
Yeah. Which of course, despite the snidey comments earlier, my snidey comments earlier about the FA Cup and disrespecting it and stuff, is way more important than a quarterfinal against Norwich. Way more important because it's now a pretty long shot that United will make fourth place. Chelsea winning a really crucial game against City, a game which didn't mean anything for any other reason other than the top four being decided, or potentially decided. We got to make 6 points basically, or 5, given the goal difference. Maybe 5 or 6, hard to say. Not much in the goal difference, or 7 on Leicester, given there's a big goal difference, which in 7 games is super, super hard. I mean, Leicester, the advantage is that we played them on the final day. Maybe we've made up 4 points because they're not in great form. They are losing a lot of games, including today in the FA Cup. Maybe we need to go to I was going to call it Filbert Street now, but it's not called Filbert Street anymore.
And it's been a long time.
The King Power Stadium. And win on the final day, which would be interesting when Ollie benches Pogba and Bruno.
But he's not going to do that though. That's the lovely thing. That's an old joke that doesn't apply anymore. Because that's why I'm kind of saying I'm finding all this fault with him. But my God, if you offered me a swap for Mourinho, I'd literally punch you in the face rather just for even daring to say it. Because between now and the end of the season, Mourinho really literally would have benched 3 of our best players.
So, what else we got to say? We're going to talk about Brighton. Shall we take a quick break and then come back with some Brighton chat?
Well, let's do it. If you want More from the show in between shows. Check us out on the socials. We are NQAT Pod on Instagram, Ed's at NQAT Pod on Twitter, and we are under our real names on Facebook at No Question About That. So Brighton are one of the best teams in the country at the moment, aren't they, in the post-lockdown world? At least they definitely won at least one game, which is what I'm basing that on.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they beat Arsenal, which was extremely funny.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Arsenal had a couple of victories since then. Not that it makes much difference to United. I think they're too far back, aren't they, Arsenal, to challenge for the top four.
A couple of victories? Oh, yeah, they beat someone, didn't they?
Well, they beat Sheffield United in the FA Cup. And then they beat somebody else at the weekend who I completely forget.
Was it Southampton? Did they beat Southampton?
I think it was Southampton.
No, we could look it up, but fact-checking will ruin everything. Well, Brighton have played 2 games in Project Restart now, and this is kind of why...
draw.
Yeah, and you know, a win and a draw against teams much further up the table than they are. So they beat Arsenal 2-1. And then they drew with Leicester. They are now...
They're
now
as inspirational against Leicester.
No.
They had... I mean, and maybe it's just the late winner and the salty interview that gives me, belief that they were inspired. I mean, I saw both games. But yeah, it was more prosaic against Leicester, I thought. And Leicester are not playing well at the moment.
No, although they were really good in... We'll talk about this in bonus content. They were actually really good in patches today. They just couldn't kind of hold it together for the whole length of the game. But yeah, Brighton are now in 33 points, with a game in hand on Watford below them, who have 28 points, and then
probably only need 5 or 6 to be safe. They should be safe.
They might not even need 5 or 6 to be safe, because you've got 3 teams on 27 points, 1 on 28. So, how many points are that? Especially since every single one of those teams looks absolutely garbage at the moment. It's... But yeah, I think they'll be very unlucky at this point. They're going to have a real disaster of a second half of the season. But, I mean, there's nothing to fear in this game whatsoever. I mean, the one thing is whether we'll see Pogba start and not Fernandes, which I wouldn't like to see, but I wonder whether that's a realistic possibility given how tired Fernandes must be.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Seems like a fit bloke, but I mean, I think I would be surprised if Fernandes doesn't start. I don't think Solskjaer necessarily makes those really big decisions like that. My concern with Fernandes is a lot of minutes after a long time out.
Yeah,
but we'll see. And the one thing I'm curious about with Brighton is what kind of formation they play, because they just play this kind of weird 4 and then 2 holding and then 2 in front of them, but not really in a diamond. Moy sort of played on the right against Leicester, but not really. He was sort of really inside, and then 2 up front. I don't know what you call that as a formation.
I think nowadays they call that the 4-2-2-2.
4-2-2-2-2-2.
Yeah. There's so many 2s that you never know when to stop with 4-2-2-2. It's just one more than you would normally say, isn't it? 4-2-2.
I mean, the one player I'd really not seen much of before this, Lamptey at right back, was impressive against Leicester. I don't think he played against Arsenal. Did he? I don't remember him playing against Arsenal, but he was, super quick and comfortable on the ball. Looks like lots of talent there, but the rest of it's rubbish.
I wonder whether we might see Marlon Brandon Williams playing in this game. I mean, I wonder whether I just want to see Marlon Brandon Williams playing in this game, and that's why I'm saying that. But, Shaw has not been absolutely terrible. He did one bit of really, really fantastic defensive covering work when Dalot got absolutely skinned.
But hasn't he started something like 15 games in succession for United? He started every single game. He
started loads of them in centre-back, though.
Yeah,
playing in the back 3. But no, I'm sure Luke Shaw is the incumbent. Wan-Bissaka's not injured, is he? He was just rested. So he'll be back. I guess it'll be Lindelof and Maguire again restored. So. And then Matic. Why not play Matic in this game?
Yes, it's probably going to be Matic since McTominay was in this one. And then it's a question of, do Bruno and Pogba start? If Pogba still is coming off the bench with a bit more time, Next time, as Solskjaer did say, he'd play more each game. Then it's Fred.
Solskjaer said he'd play more each game, and then started him against Sheffield United. True. Yeah. I guess he's in now.
So yeah, we'll see. I mean, Brighton can only succeed in this game by keeping it super tight. I don't think we're going to fall apart like Arsenal. United will have a lot of possession, 60-something% possession in the last 3 games. So
worth saying as well, we have hardly conceded a goal.
Incredibly tight. Yeah,
it's just so that we shouldn't. There's no real cause.
But for Flappy Serge and Divey Dave,
Chucky Day,
it didn't work. Yeah, we wouldn't have conceded a goal after the restart. Which
again, got to give credit to the manager, because this is like I said. I think some of the more ethereal stuff, some of the less obvious stuff is probably where his weaknesses are, but the actual practicalities, he's getting a lot of that right, and you can go a decent way by doing that. So anyway, I think it'll be. I mean, I hope it is. He sticks with Greenwood, who hasn't been amazing, but he's looked really like any second now something amazing could happen, and it seems a much better option against a team that's presumably going to sit back than Dan James. Who didn't get a game against
I would mind you kind of enjoyed the matchup between Dan James, 4 foot, whatever he is, and God, what's it? It might be Dan Burn. The Brighton left back's like 6'4", isn't he? He's giant. Let's hit the diagonals.
No diags in that one. We've got the best diag merchants in the game though as well, haven't we? Like Pogba, nobody hits a diag like Pogba. I mean, Rooney, obviously, R.I.P. R.I.P. to Rooney's magical diags. But James is interesting that he didn't feature at all against Norwich. I wonder whether that's Solskjaer thinking, well, this is, even though he might want to play him for sort of rotation purposes or whatever, he's just not the right option in this game in particular. There's no way that Igalo, Mata, Lingard, no way any of those are getting in the team, I wouldn't have thought.
No, the choices are, I'm sure Shaw will start, unless he's tired or injured. They are McTominay or Matic, Fred or Pogba, or Bruno, I guess, but I'd imagine Bruno is definitely in. And then James or Greenwood, and the rest of it picks itself.
So, Jermaine Genius, wow. It's amazing. It's amazing how bad co-commentary is on television. They're so bad. Genius said something like, first of all, he said that United's defenders weren't good on the ball. This is Eric Bailly, who's Cruyff turning people fun, literally, because he'd rather do that than just clear the ball. Yeah. Maguire, who Pep Guardiola wanted to sign, is perfectly good. Andy
Russell, they're all good on the ball, all of them. That's part of the problem, but yeah. And then he said Pogba's coming to the side for Fred, which I don't agree with, because obviously Pogba's a better player, but Fred should be given a chance to lose his place. I'm like, how about you just play your good players? That's anyway. So yeah, staggering from old Genius. I wonder when diversion here, but you started it. Are there any broadcasters who ever take a chance on not an ex-footballer as a summariser?
I don't know, but it would be really interesting to see.
I understand why it's done, because they have the credibility to speak about what it's like to be a footballer, but they're almost never asked on co-comps to talk about what it's like to be a footballer. What they're talking about is adding colour to what you can all see with your own eyes in front of you.
And also passing comment on tactics and individual performances. Very often players not in their position, in very different jobs, in very different sorts of teams.
And hardly ever they bring this out. And of course, they don't have, I'd say, either the time in the match necessarily, because they're always commenting on what the next thing, rather than bringing out some analysis, which arguably it would benefit from. Or often the sort of ability to articulate it. I was kind of surprised over the weekend. I hadn't seen much of him, but Joe Cole as a studio summariser was surprisingly good.
Well,
this is the
thing.
He's not the most articulate fellow, and you're like, oh well, he's never going to do much. But he brought out concepts that I was surprised that he actually did that.
But I think the quality of studio punditry in the last 10 years has gone absolutely through the roof. Like the level of analysis you get. I mean, even if you just look at the personal trajectory of Alan Shearer is now like a really good pundit because he's worked really hard at it. And he did not used to. I don't mean you have to agree with everything he says. Obviously, that's not the condition, but he's thoughtful and considered and all these kinds of things and tries to pull interesting things out of games. And, you got Rio. Paul Scholes, maybe he's a bit cartoony sometimes, but makes very interesting points about the game. Obviously, you've got Neville and Carragher doing their thing in the long form version of it all. But the co-commentary just hasn't come along for the ride. Co-commentary is still basically just people moaning about people misplacing passes.
Well, it's come along for the ride from the 1960s, as we know from the period of Game Club during lockdown.
But was it
very
worse
strange
then?
co-coms?
Was it worse? I'm not sure it was worse.
It was certainly surprising when the fellow who only said 4, maybe 5 things in the entire game suddenly popped up out of nowhere, 20 minutes in.
Absolutely. But to be honest, with Steve McManaman, I could do with him popping up 4 times in the game. Ultimately, he's probably one of the less annoying ones. I don't know. That's a strong shout, isn't it? But anyway, what's the score going to be for when we travel to the south coast and play Brighton and Hove Albion?
It's a good day out for any fans who want to go gather around the ground and start spreading a extremely deadly disease. Got any plans to do that, Paul?
No, Ed, I haven't.
No. Good. Football fans definitely wouldn't do that. Anyway, I think we're going to win this one comfortably. Maybe 2-0.
All right, I'm going to go for 3-0 because I'm overexcited. Rashford's going to get a hat-trick this time. Share it around.
Yeah.
And then Mason Greenwood's going to get a hat-trick in the game after that, and then Pogba in the game after that.
I'd like to see Pogba get a hat-trick. I mean, I'm not expecting it. It would be extremely surprising. I'd just like to go and wander by Twitter and see what happens after Pogba scores a hat-trick.
Yeah. All right. That's enough of that nonsense. If you're a Patreon backer, stay tuned, and we're going to cover all the football that we've seen between us in the last week, which I would argue is probably a fairly substantial amount of football. And everyone else, we'll see you on Thursday or Friday next week, depending on when we get it recorded and edited and stuff.
Great, and I'm off to let off fireworks at Civic Buildings. Enjoy, everyone. Bye.
With that.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.